Hi everyone! So this is definitely different for me. I'm doing a vlog instead of my typical other videos that I usually make. But I thought of a fun idea that might be kind of interesting and fun for you guys to come along with me. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mariah. I'm a certified canine nutritionist, and I've been formulating my pets' meals, my dog, cat, and ferrets, for a little over 6 years now. So I've been doing it since 2016, and I fell in love with raw diets and raw feeding species-appropriate foods to our pets. And so I created Paws of Prey, which is this channel, and I've been teaching pet owners how to raw feed for about 3 years now. So I thought about some of the roadblocks that kind of keep people away from raw feeding, and one of them, a big one, is the amount of ingredients that it takes to kind of make a nutritionally complete and balanced raw meal. You can definitely balance over time, and if you don't have certain foods to provide certain nutrients one day, you can provide it another day, and kind of balance over time. But a lot of people do like to balance every single day. So I started thinking, is it possible to create a complete and balanced recipe with as little ingredients as possible? Because usually it takes about 10 to 15 ingredients to make a complete and balanced recipe for dogs, cats, and ferrets. So I was like, how low can I go and still meet all the nutrients they need? So I decided to challenge myself. I'm gonna try and shop and create a complete and balanced recipe for an adult dog that needs about 1,000 calories, which is around 40 to 45 pound dog. And I'm gonna see how low I can get these ingredients down to. I'm hoping maybe 5 or 6. So I thought it'd be fun to come along with me as I shop. We can take a look at different meats and kind of go over why they may or may not work for this recipe. And we're gonna create a super simple but balanced recipe for this dog. So let's go. Okay, so my first stop is going to be my chain grocery store, because that would probably be the first place that most people look. I'm trying to make it really easy for people, so I'm gonna start with the place where they would probably grocery shop. So we're gonna start with my local grocery store, which is Publix. We're gonna see what they have there. Okay, so I am now at a pet store, and it's not like PetSmart or Petco or any of those chain pet stores. It's more like a local pet store, and they do talk about selling natural products, which not everywhere will have. So I know exactly what I'm getting in here, but I will show you in a second. This is something that you can't find at grocery stores. You really can't find it anywhere unless you get it at a pet store that sells it or online. So let's go get it. So I'm done shopping. Luckily, I only had to go to 2 stores. So that's another thing that I kind of wanted to do, was not have to go to a bunch of different places, because I know a lot of people really don't like to shop a bunch of different places, and normally I do because I like to get a lot of variety, but we're making a super simple meal today. I just went to 2 stores, and I did get one thing online, so you'll see what that is. Maybe you could find this item at a health food store or something, but I specifically wanted to buy this online just because I like the brand. So I kind of wanted to go over what a raw diet is and what kind of makes up a raw diet to begin with. Raw diets usually need to include a raw meaty bone, at least 2 muscle meat proteins, at least 1 muscular organ, liver, and at least 1 other secreting organ. So that is the base of the raw diet. But there are a few nutrients that are a little low depending on what foods you're feeding. So a few other foods would need to be added for that. which again kind of averages around 12 to 15 ingredients. Again, we wanted to keep this low, and I want to do no more than 6 ingredients. I think I can do it, but we'll see, and I'll kind of explain what foods I chose. Sorry about the birds. I'm outside kind of showing you this stuff. So I wanted to start with a raw meaty bone. So there were a few I could have chosen from. Basically what I did is I went to my main chain grocery store and I went to a local pet store. So most of the stuff is from my chain grocery store, which I'm sure you could find all of this stuff at yours as well. So something that really needs to be in raw diets is something that provides enough calcium and magnesium, and that really only comes from bones. Calcium and magnesium come from a bunch of different ingredients, but it's not going to meet those needs unless you're feeding a raw meaty bone or something like seaweed calcium or bone meal, something like that. So there were a few different meaty bones that I could choose from. I had the feeling that most calories needed to come from the muscle meat because that's the main portion of the diet. So I wanted to choose kind of a low calorie meaty bone, but also still high in calcium and magnesium. I did have the option of like chicken wings and chicken drumsticks, but those have a lot of skin and fat on them, so they're going to be a lot higher in calories. So then I found turkey necks. I wanted to find like chicken necks or duck necks, but chain grocery stores just don't always have those. They usually do have turkey necks, usually in the frozen section. So I just went with that. This is a perfect size for a dog that needs to consume 1,000 calories, which is again around 40 to 45 pounds. My 25-pound corgi eats turkey necks fine. I don't often feed them though, because I'd rather feed him something smaller like chicken or duck necks. But this can be swapped out for chicken or duck. Chicken necks are a little bit higher in calories, but they could kind of be interchanged. Another animal part that just absolutely has to be in the diet, I can't cut it out, is liver. Liver will provide ample amounts of vitamin A, and it also is the one that provides a decent amount of copper as long as you're feeding like a ruminant animal liver like beef, lamb, goat, deer. It's also pretty high in iodine, iron, zinc, and folic acid, which, we need as much of that as we can get. So I did have the option of chicken liver, which chicken and turkey can provide enough vitamin A, like no problem, but they're pretty low in copper. So I really wanted to go with a ruminant animal liver in this case. So what I chose was beef liver. And it's grass-fed, so that's a plus because animals that were raised in, their natural environment and eating the foods that they were naturally meant to eat, like grass and not just a bunch of grains, it will be higher in nutrients. So I definitely wanted to grab grass-fed in this case. So the next thing I wanted to add, of course, is the bulk of this recipe, which is the muscle meat. So muscle meat as well as the muscular organ. And I really needed to choose wisely with this one because, I'm already at 2 ingredients and the maximum amount that I can add now is 4 more. So I felt like I really needed to cut the muscle meat down to like 1 protein. Or else I might not be able to make it to 6. So luckily chain grocery stores have a ton of different options usually. They have things like chicken, turkey, duck, beef, lamb. So I had a good amount of things to choose from. But I had to choose wisely. So if I went with chicken or turkey meat, the meat would be low in certain B vitamins. And if I went with duck, the meat would be a little low in selenium and zinc. So I couldn't go with that either. So when I was thinking about the minerals, beef came to mind because beef is really, really high in zinc, especially if it's grass-fed and finished. And it's pretty high in certain B vitamins. And so I kind of took a look at the beef and I noticed that even most beef cuts were falling short of thiamine, which is vitamin B1. And it was meeting basically everything else, but that vitamin B1 just was not being met with like any meat that I was choosing. But then I realized pork. Now, a lot of people are kind of wary of pork, but if it's sourced for human consumption, that means it was raised in an environment that was safe, as far as if you're buying in the US, Canada, EU, Australia. These are usually safe areas to buy pork and feed it raw. So I got the pork tenderloin, and I looked at the nutrient data of pork tenderloin, and it was able to raise the zinc. It didn't actually meet it, but I'm hoping the other ingredients that I have can kind of boost that zinc. And it was able to meet selenium, iron, and all B vitamin needs, so that's great. But we are still low on a few nutrients. So the next nutrient that's a little low that I want to tackle is manganese, because only a few different foods can meet this nutrient like fully. That's an animal-based ingredient, and that is blue mussels, green tripe, and certain vegetables, but I really wanted to keep it animal-based, so I kind of wasn't sure which one I should choose, but I went with green tripe. And the reason why is because I really wanted to add in a muscular organ. Green tripe is a muscular organ. So I just wanted to add a little more variety there as far as animal body parts. And green tripe will also help raise the zinc a little bit. I went to my local pet store because I know that they have pre-made raw food and they also have frozen raw parts, and they do sell green tripe. And this is something you're not going to find anywhere else, but either a pet store or online. So we're at 4 ingredients now, and I need to meet a bunch of other things with just 2 ingredients. So the next thing I wanted to tackle is iodine, because that's another thing that really can't be met by a bunch of different foods. It's really going to only be met by, well, one, if you feed a lot of organ meat or a lot of fish, but you really shouldn't feed that much of those things. But the next best thing is seaweed. So kelp is what usually people use, but there's also a few other sea vegetables like dulse. There's also laver, and actually I went with dulse. I have kelp and stuff, but I really like this brand, and I wanted to get their dulse and kind of rotate with different sea vegetables, so that's what I'm going to be using for this recipe. And it's actually a lot higher in iodine than kelp. Okay, we're at 5 ingredients right now, and we are still low on EPA and DHA, which is omega-3s, zinc, vitamin D, and vitamin E. So we're low on 4 nutrients still, and we need 1 food to meet that. So my first thought was feeding an oily fish like salmon, mackerel, or sardines, because they're not only high in EPA and DHA, but they're also high in vitamin D, but they all fall short on meeting zinc and vitamin E. My next thought was sprouted sunflower seeds. I know those can meet zinc pretty easily, and they're also super high in vitamin E, but they're nowhere near meeting vitamin D needs for a dog. And they're also not going to be providing the essential omega-3 fatty acids like fish or some other animal-based ingredient would. So then I thought about oysters. Oysters are very high in zinc, and they can also provide omega-3s, but they don't touch vitamin E and vitamin D. So I'm like, what the heck could possibly meet all of these at once? Then it hit me. Pasture-raised chicken egg yolks. So pasture-raised eggs are going to be a lot more nutrient dense than like caged eggs or even cage free. You know, these are all like buzzwords, but pasture raised chickens are going to be eating what they need to be eating, so like grasses, bugs, things like that. So the yolks are going to be a lot more nutrient dense, and I mean the yolk is there in the egg to supply nutrients to the chick for it to grow, so it's basically like a multivitamin. So I was like, what if I added egg yolks? And it worked. So you do need to feed like 2, maybe 3 egg yolks to meet EPA and DHA, vitamin D, vitamin E, and zinc, but it will meet it. That was the perfect ingredient for this recipe. So I think it was pretty good. I think that worked out pretty well. So this recipe is about 1,000 calories. It's around 7% fat, which is just fine for adult dogs. And the premodel ratios are 75% muscle meat, 9% muscular organ, 12% raw bone, and 4% liver. Now, I wouldn't only feed this recipe for a super long period of time. This was just kind of a fun exercise and something to just get you started if you can't really get that much variety yet. But this was just a fun exercise I thought I'd do to try and make a simple but balanced raw meal. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know what you thought.